All right, so I just felt the need to come in and sort of do this like breakthrough message, um, because I feel like there's so many downloads, there's so much moving. We're coming into such a brighter expression and period. There has been a lot of, like, in real time, me stopping myself and being very aware of like the old karmic loops, like what my mind presets used to be, how I used to form this sort of negative law of attraction. And I mean, it speaks to how powerful we are as the individual to create the circumstances of the universe we want to live in. But at the same time, it's like really been apparent that I'm breaking out of an old cycle, because I can see it sort of in its tracks when I sort of start to manifest or project certain past life or deeply karmic energy, that I kind of always just feel like I felt was reserved for me. Like I was just never realizing how much like I eliminated any possible expansion previously. And I feel like the shift from Scorpio to Sagittarius talks about where we may have, in what after a death process we see in maybe perhaps the clearest vision, where we would eclipse potential expansion energy as we move and expand out even further in the now moment. So I'm just giving honor and glory and sensitivity, and I'm uplifting so many energies at this time, as I just think that it's a good time to really tap in and sort of give a message here. I'm going to start with the Crystal Ally cards, and I'm going to pick a spread from here because so we've got heaven and earth, the pyramid, chakra spread, and between the pyramid let's go. Let's just admit it. Pyramid it is, right? And I just think that it's kind of funny because I was thinking the pyramid in the sense of it would allow me the opportunity to really understand like what the whole picture is, because we're in such a crazy special time. So let's see, we're gonna go ahead and go through and just arrange all of these really quickly. Yeah, like the safety. I think there are times when I feel as though like I don't have certain safeties, you know what I mean? Alright, 333 I just saw. Yeah, like this first download I'm getting is sort of this energy that I think is being triggered in me right now, because I have really aligned to truth. And so when you're really like in an embodied state of truth, it can be interesting to feel as though or ascribe the truth as certain inauthenticities or non-truths that you may have been like previously used to expressing. So I feel like now that I'm living in truth, I feel like there are a lot of anxieties or sort of trigger responses to like, is the other ball gonna drop? Is this... I think it's really like, I think one of my biggest fears is that the truth in this world won't be accepted, or won't be, that it won't prevail in some sense of the way, which is obviously nonsensical, but I think that's something that I'm fearful of often. Like sometimes I can be so sure in my core that this is the truth of something, or of a situation, or of a dynamic, or whatever the case may be. And I become fearful for many different reasons, but I become fearful that for some way, in one way or another, that reality, which is the truth, won't be able to like be expressed. And so it's really important how we think. We need to remember that our consciousness doesn't encapsulate the entirety of truth, and we're not always in the entirety of truth based on our consciousness and like our limitations. So it's really important to remember like truth is what it is, even if we perceive a reality to be one way and the truth of it is that it's something completely different. That's indicative of us and not of the objective truth. And so yeah, I think that's really important. I think too there's this other download that was kind of about there's just like maybe it's being witnessed in others, like this energy of being able to pinpoint like not just a bad vibe, but like the nature of a negative vibration, and how much your stronger sense of self and your self-love and authenticity and finding security within your self-knowledge and exploration, because the only way to battle insecurities is to know thyself. It's just the truth. And not just know thyself, but then there's also this level of acceptance that also can expedite the ability to overcome an insecurity. But I feel like a lot of insecurity-based lower vibrations are easier to pinpoint now that there's a stronger level of self. Not only can you identify its source, but then you can also, like, there's just like this new freedom or this new breath that isn't comfortable because it's not familiar. I think we're used to a little bit more resistance in this space, whereas now it's a lot more free-flowing and open for us to kind of breathe into the fact that like someone's vibe could really affect the whole vibe depending on what the situation may be. And that just kind of is what it is. That's like where we don't really have a lot of control when it comes to like living amongst other energies. But one thing is for certain is that you're no longer generalizing, or there's less generalizations or homogenous behaviors or groupings of things when that is to the detriment of our own well-being. Like if we know something to be true, or if we don't identify, or something does not belong to us, but we still will self-sabotage or harm ourselves by being very aware of like this person naturally, or this energy that I'm experiencing or witnessing is of a certain specificity, and we can be able to, this is sort of that objective identification I feel like is coming through. So there's kind of like this ability to objectively be able to recognize what you have ownership of, what you don't have ownership of, and in that space there's this new freedom and breathing room and literal anxiety reduction. I think that's what I've been like addressing, is like there'll be these like really, you know, uniquely characteristic experiences that I'm kind of having with it throughout the day, where I'm like having time to check in and stop and be like, okay, do we see though how this is a really different space than what it previously was, and then kind of making this check in. So that's why I'm kind of bringing off some of these off the top downloads. Like there's just this ability right now for our energies to be able to breathe and say, and literally, because I feel like this is an active space too. It's not just, it's reception, but it's an active reception. Like it's like actively checking in inventory as it's being unloaded off of a truck, like a new shipment. Like you have to take account of like what you're receiving, and be knowledgeable as to like, I ordered this, that's why I'm receiving it. You put in the work to place the order, this is why you're receiving it. So this check-in wall between Scorpio and Sag that we kind of just passed through, like I think it's just really important, because right now there are a lot of dreams coming true that I'm like experiencing, and kind of like I've been seeing a lot of deer, which I think really speaks to the naivete of the beginning of a brand new cycle, that sort of doe like fumbling through with just like complete vulnerability. And I've been seeing so many in the communities that I've been like sort of around in the recent times, and I think that's kind of to really speak about it's a very Libran energy, because I just saw balance, and it's kind of about the balancing of, like I said, if I ordered it, which means I put in the work to like order it, i.e. like I had the money, and how do you get the money? Money is the energy, meaning like if you have enough money to purchase or exchange it in exchange for something else, you had to have acquired that money in some way. And so then there's some energy transmission happening there from like work I do personally, translating to currency, translating to energy, translating to its destination. So there's a balancing coming in about like all that long process. I think we got a very realistic understanding of like how long that kind of might take for us. if you've never been like vigilant of that before. But also there's this opportunity for us to be a part of the balancing process, like balancing our own checkbook, so to speak. 1010. I've been seeing 1010 a lot as well. And I think, yeah, like, especially at this time too, like, I think we've had enough practice with, like, money, financial segment intending, which I think has really helped, been the only thing that could really, like, help me through sort of a really, because I'm going through a very, like, contrasted, like, I was in a very limited poverty consciousness, like, deep karmic loop that I get to see the end of, I feel like, in this lifetime, but it was so deep that, like, the place that I'm going to financially is really just, like, not, there isn't really many continuities, like, it's very polar. So the instability in the financial sector has been kind of blown up frequently by Uranus, but it's also kind of been, like, the only rule that I could really say is that, like, never resist energy out of a fear of, because here's the reality, if you don't have enough money, what's the only thing to do? Acquire more money, right? Like, to meet the need. If we're just talking spiritually financial, I'm not saying that this is like my metaphor for how I live my life. I mean, like, when it comes time to deal with financial situations, like, the only thing that I can really say is that if the answer will just be that more money will have to be generated, usually through your own doing, if it's submit to support or purchase or exchange something for yourself. And because I know that, and because I think that part of the fear is that I don't trust myself to go or I like to hurt myself and saying, like, non-truths, like, you're not a hard worker, because these are the things that I would hear echoed, you know, and it's all karmic because it's how I used to behave in past lives, where maybe I was exploiting, you know, meek energy, and I was not really taking on enough work for myself, and I was really kind of projecting. And so now in this lifetime, being told that, like, people's perception, 1212, which is very hangman energy, might be that I don't work hard, or that things come easy to me, or that I'm just, like, not trying, or that whatever, when the reality is the opposite, when the karma is that, like, you're gonna go through an intense period of having to work for everything in order to break this sort of cycle. And I don't just mean, like, that is not financial. That's, like, working for every sort of ascended aspect of self. So we're going to lay out, we just set out the first card, which is the emotional issue. The second card represents the physical aspect of the lesson. The third card of the pyramid is the challenge. The fourth card is the spirit card. And the fifth card is myself. So this is so beautiful, what I look like. Okie doke. So the bottom overall energy, wind energy. And this is kind of what I mean with the wind energy. Immediately I heard, like, renewable resource. Like, I think we're about to come into, or we're understanding, or we've now begun extracting energy from some renewable resource that we've been making. So your commitment to the spiritual path is now unlocked this sort of wind energy, which is sustainable, because what do we know about the wind? It doesn't belong to anyone, but it also is abundant. It makes up the entire atmosphere. It completely consumes all of us. And when I think about that as sort of analogous to spirit, it's like you've now surefired, proven, graduated, got the certification, and are now, like, able to go out and do this spiritual thing. What I mean, like, when we talk about wind energy as, like, spiritual knowledge, higher knowledge, very ninth house, very Sagittarian is also an energy I'm getting with this wind. When we're talking about the higher mind and the, you know, purple influence and indigo influence and sort of crown and third eye sort of chakra, like psychic activation, we think about how much that never ends. Like, there's always a spiritual insight. There is always communication happening within and throughout every realm. And because that is the soul truth of my world, our world, that this energy is free. These are free thoughts. These are free downloads. I'm able to now generate and sustain from moment to moment. This is what I would call re-plugging yourself to source, right? So this whole collapse, like this entry into the age of the Aquarian, we are all meant to sort of have these streamlined and sort of certified connections to our source, for ourselves, that we've created intimately. We are sort of the mechanic, we do the electrical wire, like we have to be responsible for the ins and outs of that relationship and that exchange. And starting with this Sagittarius season, it is the not just celebration, because the celebration is going to be like at a cellular level. Like you're going to feel that this expansion at a chest space, this reduction of anxiety, which also fills the cage, the filling something up with wind, the being full of air, being fully activated, because now I'm also getting the images of like the noodle balloon people who kind of like sway in the wind but are just like full of like hot blow, not even hot, but like fast blowing air, and how whimsical the expression becomes. I'm seeing a very whimsical expression coming in. And so the point of this pyramid is to illuminate, because I think the only time that, and it's not even something you're going to struggle through, because like I said, we're at that sort of certified level where, you know, maybe you're dealing with sort of the habitual triggers or the habitual patterning, and you see how reduced they've become, and you see how manageable it is, and you see how naturally manageable it is, because you found, again, this wind energy, which is like this innate natural connection to source that doesn't require anything other than what is like a part of the components of your energy. And it is now sort of the renewable resource that is now going to help you not just get through, but live the highest timeline out in any possible moment for yourself. So we're going to start with the first card. It represents the emotional issue that we are being asked to resolve or explore. And this is so funny that I was talking about finances, and I was talking about how we're changing at a fundamental level, such a limited perspective, because when we go from one consciousness to the other, the idea is that it's more expanded. And I think that there's this emphasis with this wind energy, like how expanded, how big can we blow up a balloon, you know? How much can it go from here to here? And we're a part of that process. We are defining and experiencing that process in real time, which is the gift of this now moment. It says, every situation in your life is a lesson created by your higher self in order to learn about an aspect of physicality. So if I were to take like my financial situation right now, I'm understanding an aspect of physicality by way of, you know, not being brought to the situation as punishment or as not a changed or completely evolved person, but as someone who can objectively witness the lesson and what it meant for me to be in this physical form, working through the work that I had to work through within this lifetime to get to this point. So emotions are one of the key energies that we employ for creating and exploring our reality on the earth plane. And I think this is also there's a big auditing of emotions. I think that the Sagittarius season says, point blank period, there's a bigger emphasis on like, what the fuck do I want to just feel though? Like if I want to feel damn good, then like some people who may have really gotten hung up on certain emotional spaces or specific emotions in general, and had this sort of disposition, like it's really easy to just kind of break that disposition, and just kind of really be aware. And now I'm getting, because I remember hearing several intuitives and astrologers mentioning that at this point in the week there's going to be a very like snap out of it energy. And I think that there are certain things that are being placed that reflect our personal true ascended values now, which may be different than what they were, but you're seeing your values reflected. And as you see your values reflected very clearly, there are certain things that are not in the truth vibration that now just reverberate as like a, you know what I mean? So this could be partners, this could be jobs, sectors, and spheres. This could be relationships to yourself, like ideals that you've had about yourself. This could be certain identities and norms that you uphold for yourself or you think that you need in order to identify. This could be anything that we've assembled, whether that's societally or at an individual level. And as we're starting to see that it's exactly the type of glaring, triggering frequency that makes you drop it immediately. It's whatever you've already well on your way understood and learned, that we're not going down that because we've learned that lesson. We've integrated the knowledge and the healing and the teaching. So there's really, like, that's the way, because it's not like something that's wrong, like, oh, this is wrong, but it's the type of thing that's like, I have no energy for this because I've already embodied what it is that I was meant to take from that situation. So when we see those kinds of behaviors in others or experiences that we've done and we've been through, and now they just reverberate as sort of just loud and something for you to let go of, because we are much more in touch with our divine feminine, which releases and flows, and is part of it is being secure in understanding what we are as we are also creating, because that's the role of like the mothering, loving, benevolent universe, is that with her creations, she has to both release them while simultaneously understanding and not losing her sense of self, and being strong in that, and then providing the love to build, because she's also responsible for building up the understanding of love in its creation. So that feminine energy, and that's just the reason I'm using the pronoun, it doesn't really matter, but the mothering energy in the archetype within the universe has been healed, and we are understanding the energy levels needed in order for us to deal with that delicate balance of, I'm mother, so I acknowledge me and I acknowledge myself as the life giver. I acknowledge that I do have a responsibility for summoning said life, but then I also understand that there's like what I have to let go of in order for this energy to be its own being and tap into its own mothering sort of energy. So that's all downloads I feel like we're getting right now, just because God is good. The crystal ally that has appeared here in section 1 is asking you to explore the emotional issue that it represents, and to relate it to the other cards in the spread to create a complete picture of the lesson involved in the current situation. So I feel like we kind of did a like pre-version of that, but now we're going to see, wow! So funny, because everything that I just described, right, all alludes to the emotional issue of inner peace. Right now, I'm very much seeing as I'm coming into the Sag season, like I'm able to, like I said, we talked about that clarity. With greater self-love, greater self-truth, greater embodiment of authenticity comes this ability to maintain inner peace. It's formulaic. Why are we maintaining more inner peace? Well, the more you know yourself, the more you know what isn't you. And in knowing what isn't you, you allow for flow, you allow for the world, the space that you live in to move, for energy to transfer, for less resistance, because we aren't hoarding out of fear that we won't have enough, because we believe that the universe and this paradigm that we live in, and every paradigm we'll ever live in, is naturally abundant, and there's plenty for everything to sustain and to be abundant in nature. So when we have those core basic truths, we've created this temple within. And emotionally right now, the only thing that I feel like people are checking in with is, how does this, like, your emotions have now been attuned to now really serve you? Because I think too, when we're coming out of a year of a water tiger where we were so deeply in cold, deep, dark, all-encompassing, sort of high pressure, because the deeper you go, the higher the pressure is, emotional spaces, we've now attuned those to a temple of inner peace. And I think it's very easy to identify that in others, identify where peace is not allowed to flow, while also eradicating the fact that sort of history is not repeating itself because we're thinking new thoughts, you know, and it's so beautiful because I just moved on and I chose peace just now, like even in just saying this, and Dennis just came through and just sent me a message that says, Yahoo! Exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. He says, love you so much. He's like, amazing. Can't wait to hang. Like, it's beautiful energy. Like, when I really stopped allowing there to be, let me just respond, because it's just, I'm going to take this time because I really want him to feel. Sorry, I'm just, Okay, whatever, dude. I'm living my life because I just... Yeah, there's just this level of emotional intelligence and it having to stem from you wanting to maintain your inner peace. So maybe you're seeing that in those around you where it's like, and or maybe you are inspiring this, but like you're starting to really see what's changed in people is the, like maybe through this year, like losing peace or not having peace for so long. I think this is a very fortunate and opportune time for those who do want to realign and calibrate to that truth vibration before it really opens up and changes the Sag season. I think if that's really where you would like to go, it's through this temple of inner peace within yourself, walking right up into that temple and staying there, and recognizing that you can find me here, and now we have more accountability in our community, because accountability isn't just like an individual act. Accountability is embedded in the DNA of any structure. And how do we do that? We hold each other accountable by saying, as independent beings, we all have to return to a space that we all have as individuals. We all have a space, a home, and we all know peace. We know it, and we have to believe that we know peace intimately. And when we believe that we know peace, we return to that peaceful space, and that is our promise to every other being and energetic contributor to the spaces that we encounter, no matter where we travel, this paradigm, this lifetime, this realm, this dimension, or another, you know? And I just feel like at an emotional level, there's accountability being restored, because this is such a restorative energy for my heart space. And there's such a healing that's going to come from being able to hold others accountable to the promise and the pact of returning to your internal peace in every moment, right? Moving now, knowing thyself through peace. That is a whole nother level of familiarity that some of us are having to go through if you've never really allowed yourself to know the peace of your own world. This could look like changes in partnership. This could look like changes in rigidity or heavy identity, and retreating to a more peaceful, non-partial, sort of balanced equilibrium state this Sagittarius season. And I think because so many people will be needing that medicine, peaceful medicine at this time, after the amount of work and the brevity of the things we were getting through at different points, we've now come to know that spectrum beautifully enough to choose our own inner peace at an emotional level. So also, this is not emotionally getting caught up on certain things that otherwise you now understand what that loop and what, like, at the end of the day, things are what they're going to be, and especially in the ways that it relates to you and things you don't have control over. So because things are going to be what they're going to be, these mental loops that we run ourselves on emotionally, or these mental loops that we run that trigger certain emotions that we think we're only worthy of feeling, that's what can be assessed and really like managed at this time. So this is how we're creating and exploring this new reality. And I think that that's one of the requirements, that's one of the things that the medicine I would give to you is welcome to this new reality, where really take the time at this point to use that new gauge and that new accountability. Like, I am to be held accountable to return to the place of inner peace. And I think we're able to mend spaces that we really didn't trust, or there's a lot of damage being done. Because like right now, you know, we're really healing some familial spaces, and there are changes or just indicators of like time and change and evolution in our experience that's happening in our family right now. And I don't even label it as good or bad, because they're just evolutionary periods. But I think people's lack of belief in our own evolution, or true belief that everything would just be the same forever, without actively playing a role, like that is now being put in proper perspective, because we've got this ability for others now that the only thing that I needed to truly mend the trust was the belief that some people are going to reach for peace. Because if we didn't have that, then it doesn't really soothe or allow you to rest in a knowing that things would turn out in a relatively peaceful way. If that's something that you were trying to champion, you wouldn't know that. You wouldn't be able to rest in the understanding that there's no one way to arrive at peace, but just arrive there, you know, in yourself. Because if you're at peace and I'm at peace, we can coexist. And so I think that's what's being restored right now. in a level where it's like at an individual level, people may not have done as much work, and that's what they're all feeling too when we talked about this justice energy. Like, if you didn't volunteer, we're definitely for sure at the place where the universe is going to facilitate towers. Where those things are now initiated if you didn't volunteer. And so it's all good because we're all getting the same lesson. It's just, you know, knowing yourself and knowing how you deal with towers and how you, if that's a preferred experience, you know. So just knowing that about yourself, and again, that's just self-knowledge. There's no right way to experience it. It's all really divinely blueprinted within what you're choosing in every moment. But yeah, it's really special to know that at this time, if you have both volunteered and have done the consummate work that's been required and asked of you, to know that peaceful place, make it a dwelling for yourself that you'd want to be in, so that it's extremely easy to choose in any moment, and you can kind of be the example of like what the payoffs are of working towards that sort of reality. But yes, it's for the first time saying to ourselves, like, we have this responsibility. The one thing that I need to know is that you know peace and you would like to choose that, and you have done enough work to at least navigate that space and getting to that space autonomously. Because if we move from there, no matter where you are, how much work you did or haven't done, or how you're pacing yourself, we can still meet in minds. And I think that's the emotional issue that the collective is being asked to really confront right now, because I feel that, you know, it might be kind of triggery, it might be an insecure time for people, and that's really just going to be based on the amount of work that you have or haven't done to keep aligning to that truth frequency. Because the truth frequency is, what's being blasted out is our inability to now live in resistance. Like, that's not going to be something that's as easy to do. Thus, why I talked about tower moments. Less room for there to be like so much resistance. Like, it's a very powerful source. We talked about wind energy, a tornado, the eye of a tornado is like so powerful and will sweep up anything. So we're at that sort of point where the energy is built up from this year. In such a way that the wind is moving too fast. Like, the energy, the amount that we have integrated and ascended Earth to this higher capacity of obtaining these higher frequencies, right? More wind energy. The less we can kind of, you know, it's imagine like trying to like, I'm gonna stand right here and stay on the ground while 33 while it's like a middle of a tornado, right? Like trying to like hold on, like you're not, it's all, the roof's gonna rip off eventually. So this is at an emotional level, because we've accelerated the wind speed. Can you keep, it's harder, right? It's that's what I mean. There's something to be said about earning this at an emotional level. For those of us who are experiencing this right now, the rewards of having something that can withstand, because this is what the ascension process guaranteed, that there's going to be stronger energetic winds, you know what I mean? Because we've ascended, you know, the earth space. We're now bringing down heaven on earth, and earth is ascending to meet that paradigm. And with so much more energy, you know, it's not like the same climate energetically as it used to be. So structures need to be able to withstand for the new paradigm. So that's kind of at an emotional level where we are. I feel like it's, the strengthening wasn't just to like make you stronger, but it was also because like there's going to be there's like a climate change energetically. So that was like a deeply spiritual moment, but there's like a energetic climate change happening here. And so it might be like you evolve and you make gills and turn into a fish because now things are underwater. You know what I mean? Like, it's like that type of change energetically. Like, some of us, and on the contrary, like, some of us are about to come into, like, some of us are, like, because I'm experiencing this, I'll use the allegory. Like, I've been collecting really rapidly and in, like, interesting fell swoops specific things that if I was looking at a financial sector, like, oh my God, like, I'm worried about, like, money. Like, I could say that, right? But the reality is the things that are being, like, acquired right now for me and how things are assembling at this moment really are indicative of, like, the gills coming in because you're about to change environment. Like, that's the evolution. So, like, I'm evolving right now outside of, because money is really just about, is a type of energy exchange. But it doesn't necessarily equate, it doesn't have a particular value because it's going to be, like, ascribed based on how you are valuing yourself. So that's how you sector money into your life, based on what your actual value is and your understanding of that. That'll then tell you characteristics about whether you allow certain types of money frequencies to come into your life, to flow to you. You pretty much tell the universe at what speed you need based on what work you're doing at a soul level. So for me right now, I'm, like, acquiring these things. Like, we have family in town, and it just, it costs money. Vacation just kind of always has, like, residual expenses, you know, and we're approaching the end of the month, and we're approaching the, you know, the start of December and all of these things. And, you know, I could have my trepidation or my fear of, like, how are these things going to work out for us? But nonetheless, I'm just still seeing, like, we have, so there's just so much beauty currently right now, and, like, what's kind of being acquired. And they're not crazy things. This isn't, like, consumerism. This is, like, interesting tidbits of, like, evolution happening. And I think this has to do with, at an emotional level, this is the reward you're getting. You're seeing an evolution happen right before your eyes of how you relate to people. Maybe things that were always one way, like, you're finding that, like, love was the answer, and that it just, like, opened up an alternative path that you didn't even think was, like, really possible to be there. And so it's that kind of situation. And I find that, you know, the reality here is, like, taking in and being prepared, because you successfully evolved at a physically, like, your emotions have physically evolved to face a different climate. So that's what might be weird, because maybe some of y'all are still, like, physically at a third dimensional level, like, coming out of certain things, or, like, certain things need to happen. Like, we haven't seen our family in over a year on this side of our family. And so, this, like, there's been an evolution that's taken place, but there was also, like, this physical time that we were all going to get together at this time of the year over and sort of have this reunion, was because there has to also be, like, it has to come down to Malkuth, where we're now physically doing, like, making the change happen on the ground. Like, this is something that's already happened. We've all evolved. Now that when we get together, like, there are certain things that are just boom, 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 happening in, like, in sequential order, that are now aligning us and preparing us, because we've all sort of created, well, we haven't all, but I'm saying, like, those of you who are resonating have created this internal temple, this internal peace that now is prepared for a different climate. So, like, if we were in water, now be prepared to be on land. Like, if you were, you know, it could be, like, a lot of different things. If you were extremely in one, like, sort of, like, aspect or end of the pole, like, say, like, financially or economically in your past lives, like, you were evolved. There was a reason you were changing. You weren't changing just so you could stay in that same environment. You're going to a new environment. And that is the promise that I'm also here to share at 39 minutes in. This has been such a download heavy reading that I'm just, like, so grateful to share. I have, like, so much ice water. and just like so much joy in my heart right now. Anywho.
Thank you, Spirit. So congratulations on an emotional level. You now have inner peace. That's like what it is. That's like where you are.
The second card in this spread represents the physical aspect of the lesson. This aspect relates to physical action, strength, and awareness. Your body is the vehicle through which you create and explore the physical realm. The crystal ally that appears here has come to aid you in taking positive action towards the resolution and integration of the current lesson or situation. So this is how you're going to take steps towards alleviate, like, what we need to do to like aid the situation. What action are we physically taking? This is this card. The old saying, the divine helps those who help themselves. This is what I'm talking about. You've gone through physically, you've done certain things that have indicated, and I think that's also what we're getting comfortable with, because sometimes it translates, like, especially so you're like changing financial currency and what you're allowing to yourself. Like, that process always feels uncomfortable, because you have to remember that if you're coming from a limited paradigm where you say like, I spirit universe, I only need this much money, which, and a lot of times we might be saying the opposite, like, I'm so broke, but what we really vibrationally say is like, this is how much money I want to allow towards myself right now, even if that's not a lot, you know. It all really just depends on what the soul work is and what the karmic cycle is for you, right? So when we're thinking about, like, in terms of like expanding or allowing a larger level of abundance, physical financial abundance, to flow towards you, you'd have to be open to the fact and trusting of the fact that like the lifestyle that you live is a healthy pyramid, meaning I'm not a consumer, so I have to often remind myself when I'm making purchases, because I was coming from very like intense survival mode, because again there's been a lot of Uranus instability this year in my financial sector, which I'm so grateful for, because I have really learned to reconnect with my physical body through this mechanism. Like, it's been very like root chakra of reminding myself that I am a human being, and that so much of my value has been put in like what I can do financially, and just the best way to dismantle that is to really have Uranus sort of break up the plates of that, so that it's never even an option, so that my financial space like doesn't even really make sense in compare, like it wouldn't even make sense to compare or say that my worth is what my finances were this year, because they were so sparse and sporadic and like not stable, that it kind of is the best way to teach me to just be in my energy, and that's what's actually going to straighten it out anyways in a long-term sort of sense. So it's allowed me to really rely on who I am, and that being intrinsically my value, and then knowing that my value is what situates how much, when it comes to the money vibration, I think I need or will need, or what I'm going to allow myself to have or not have or whatever. So that is how money is tied to your value, but having a set amount of money doesn't really indicate a specific value level. And not that there's like levels to value, but you know what I mean. Anywho. So the old saying, the divine helps those who help themselves, is not meant to be a justification for greed or selfishness, right? And that's what I mean. Like, it's been a lot of checking in with myself and saying like, you know, the reality is like, if you aren't in touch with your divine feminine or your spiritual body, you would not be able to be aware. Like, you might be thinking, sure, you work 40 hours a week at your job, and that's a lot for you, and you've got a family, and you've got all of this life to take care of, right? So that's objectively a lot, no doubt. But then there's also what you've been going through spiritually. And sometimes a lack of awareness of the battles and the work you're doing spiritually, which may not look like anything to anyone. Like, right now, I'm sitting on this bed, and this is taking energy for me to do this and to produce this 4444. Thank you, Spirit, for that alignment. But it's taking energy for me to come to this space and to be focused on channeling from a perspective of objective insight and resource, you know, and renewable resource. And so when I'm sort of in this space, if there are certain things that I allow myself to do, because it's like you're doing double the work. Like, it's like you can end up really making a damaging, like, relationship with, like, intake and reception and receiving things, if you don't actually know how much work you're doing. And that's, like, a lot of people's problem. Like, some people think they're just tired on the third dimension, but then, like, imagine how much you're also doing on astral, or imagine how much spiritual work you're doing. Even if it is that you're repeating a same cycle that's harming you over and over again, like, you're having to reprocess that trauma and bear that sort of pain and work over and over again. So there's so many ways that we're exerting energy, and we do need to be rewarded with balance, right? So that means, like, we're not always waiting for the world or something outside of ourselves to acknowledge how much fucking work we're doing and do things that will help keep us here. And I learned that lesson it's one of probably my favorite lessons of the year of the water tiger, which was that the person, the thing, the entity, the energy that needs to honor how much work I'm doing and should be aware of how much work I'm doing at all times is me. Because without that awareness, I cannot allow myself to receive the adequate amount of nutrients I need back for what I've put out. It has to be the same. If I put this much out, I need at least that much back. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that from like I mean that from like a to continue to like sustain what I'm doing, to continue to do the work that I have to do. And so there's certain levels of like things and treasures that mean a lot to me that I've acquired. Like, I just, I bought this $10 like chest. It's like a treasure chest. And it just seemed such a perfect time to receive a treasure chest, because I feel like there's treasure coming in, like, of a very, very beautiful spiritual matter. And receiving that, and it's such a weird thing, but for me, if you knew who I was, like, that's just one of my things, like, my human self, like, it's just one of the things that I really love is, like, collecting things of value and curating sort of that kind of energy for myself. So I bought that. I bought like a basket, and I bought this hat, you know, and I was given these shoes, and they're all these, like, they were like, I spent maybe $15, but so this is not like a splurge. Like, I know that doesn't sound relatable, like, but that was a big splurge for me right now, like, financially. And but it was one of those things where I don't have to have the sort of guilt or the second guessing or the lack of clarity on whether those purchases are aligned or misaligned. And a lot of times I think some people, especially when you come from like poverty consciousness, you just think spending money is like a mortal sin, you know what I mean? Or like, you spent money, so there's punishment for that. Because I think that there was always, which is very unfair, because money is meant to move. And so one of the biggest wounds that I realize is that we're told that, like, your money doesn't ever move, when really, like, people with wealth, like, the thing that's not translated clearly is to sort of gatekeep that wealth, is that, like, wealthy people move their money, you know? It very rarely just sits. It's always either accruing or moving or investing. And so, as I've been working through this year, and it's beautiful that this lesson of, you know, wealth and finance has been coming up, because I think this is just like healing medicine that I really need right now. So I'm really grateful to like have this archived. But this is what moving to an investment space looks like, and how many times when we invest, do we affirm in a physical way, second card, how we value ourselves. I feel like one of the things I've also learned from the year of the water tiger is, like, if I've done this much work, I want to embody it. So a lot of the things that I have that make up a physical version of my life right now, or a physical representation or an energetic expression of what my life is right now, is all about the amount of work that I've put in, you know what I mean? Over long-term periods. This is not short-term work. This isn't like sat down and thought about how I want to put my house together. Like, everything that's in my house is like from really different eras, really different years. Some of it's like 6 years old. And I'm just talking about, like, that's how long Dennis and I, my fiance, have been living together and collaborating and contributing to a space together. So for as long as we've been doing that and creating a home together, like, there are some pieces that date all the way back to when we first met. There are pieces from 3 years ago. There are pieces from this year. There's pieces from this month, from yesterday. but it's I really think that there's sort of also this gift of your physical expression really, really indicating like the action you're taking. Like I just feel like there is this beautiful relishing in like the physical work you did to have what you have now, or to feel the way you feel about yourself now, or to dress or wear the things that you want to wear now. Like you had to also realize when you're coming from a poverty wound, again, it kind of like plagues you with like a non-movement, you know what I mean, like not moving in a weird way. And I think also getting any closer to a reality you want, like you're never gonna have a better sense of self-expression maybe through your clothing or through your art unless you quite literally just begin making the art or wearing the clothes that are more aligned 50-50. See what I mean? With your expression. So there's this real balancing energy. So anyways, it says, often the divine can work through our actions to create magnificent results. And I think that that's also what's really special right now. Like there are times when the divine possesses me physically and like creates beautiful results. Because I feel like that's what I mean when I think about my house right now. It's like it really is the divine working through us at so many different points to kind of create this really beautiful picture physically. So it says, if only we will take the initial step and move forward toward our dream. And that's all I did. Like yesterday night, like I said, I bought this treasure chest that's like, and we, you know what? Like, let's share what I'm talking about because it's just, it only makes sense. So here we are with the literal treasure chest. Right? But the thing about this chest is when you open it, it's fucking amazing. Right? This was $10. This is a $10 investment. Right? Same thing with this basket I bought. Right? Or I got this hat. You can see what my vibe was yesterday. Right? But regardless of what we're investing in, those are obviously like to the average person that may be like whatever, no one really cares about what you just showed me. But I know for me why those things have value and what they really represent, and that was me taking the initial step to allow the divine to work through me. And I think sometimes we don't realize, like, also when we want the divine to expand certain aspects of our lives, like we will need to like be also very comfortable. Like the divine needs to trust that, like, okay, when I call you to do something though, how am I going to trust that you're going to do it? How are you going to trust that you're going to do it? You know what I mean? Like, how are you going to know when not only is God talking to me and trying to bring something into my life, but they're going to need to be able to have access to my body in order to like move me to it so that I obtain what I need to obtain from the divine that they want to gift me. And so I think that there's that discomfort that really I want to dispel and give you more power to, and say, like, when you're trying to sort of break that curse of like never being able to receive what it is that you really want to receive, you have to understand that like I had to just be like, you know what, like I want this chest, you know what I mean? It was $10, you know, at the thrift store, and I was like, you know, one of those things. But I just knew it had a perfect place. We had room in the car. Like I was like, okay, we'll just get it, you know. And oftentimes with things like that, like everything in my life or everything that I have of value, like, I mean, art and physical creations are such an important part of like how I live my life. So those kinds of things I know I'll just keep with me for a lifetime, and that's just so special, you know. But yes, we that's what I mean. I feel like there's something to also be said about physically, like the divine is trying to make something happen in your life. So just know that it's important for you to also be comfortable with like knowing what it looks like, taking like letting God initiate something for you, like whether that be just bringing you pure happiness, you know what I mean, or really really like allowing you to express yourself, which I think a lot of my money wounds come from like a real wound of like feeling like I would be reprimanded for expressing my true self. Like, not just like, oh my god, you're buying stuff, like, bad for you, or you're using your money, bad for you, right? Let's not even just say buying stuff, but like what you're using your money for, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's more of a wound for me than anything. But there's this period right now with the Sagittarius season that says that if you've done this aligned and you're in balance with the ecosystem, what you use your money for is for the good of all people. Like, you know, being in my home, like, I have visitors and they felt so caught by our hosting, and we really didn't do that much. It's just the long game of like, the home we've created over time is one that other people would want to be in, and so that's really special. But it's also the kind of thing where it's like, okay, wow, like, then in that case, like, we really, you know, have created something unique here. And it just came through the physical, every single physical little thing that's in our home that we now have, taking the time to let the divine manifest through us. Because what we also couldn't have seen years ago when we maybe came across certain things is how in 2022, this moment of having these certain guests come and them feeling really caught and held by their creator by approaching and experiencing our home that we're hosting them in, like, we probably wouldn't have seen that moment coming. So that's also part of this physicality. Like, you may not have direct answers, but like, there are things of value that, like, just having, you know, like, change and alter the course of like what's going on for you. So the second card is, and didn't we just talk about healing the female energy, how you're now in tune with your divine feminine? So she's aware of who she is. She's aware of the part of her creation that she has to let go to be its own thing. But she's also aware of her responsibility and indebtedness to said creation because she brought it into form. But this, you need to take the actions you're feeling psychically. Your literal divine feminine, the high priestess in all of us, came out, which is the side of you that has been doing all the work. Because we talked about physically, you are, if you're only looking at the divine masculine third dimensional, like what you physically do in a day as the work you're doing, and you're not also acknowledging the spiritual work that you've done, you are missing out on, some of you live in poverty consciousness, like, not even intentionally, because God may be very much telling you, go, and it might even be like, go spend this money on this thing, right? That you know, and remember we talked about this on this channel. There's something about when Uranus breaks up second house, like finances, resources, what it really is sharpening you to do is to know the point of money is that when you receive money, knowing exactly what to do with it, like, that level of clarity is so, that is really the key component to wealth. Like, knowing where that needs to be sent and knowing what the bigger puzzle piece needs to look like and in what order, so that you can expedite accruing whatever the ideal is. And so that's kind of how I'm really starting to re-heal my relationship to finances. But it comes through this female power. The divine is empowering you to say what you see psychically. This is what I mean. You will not be able to receive this message if you aren't someone who believes in your core after what you've been through this year. In the year of the water tiger, after what you've been through, if you do not realize that your divine feminine has a plan and she needs you to do things too, but she's not the action, she will sit still and she will whisper to you, she will tell you what the assignment is. I'm telling you what you need to go do. Do you believe me? Because when I'm in the store and I'm like, okay, I feel like I need to get this chest, I have the funds to do it. The only thing that's in the way is this like mental blockage. And this isn't like objective advice where I'm telling you like this isn't just about spending money, but I mean there are some of us who are at this place right now where we've been evolved for a new climate in all levels of life. This definitely includes abundance and finance, and that financial abundance as well. But what I'm telling you is there are certain things that spirit is aligning in certain pieces that are being given to you, and this is all the time, but what we've ascended in consciousness to be aware of to come into balance is right and left side of the brain. And the female energy here, the female power, right? There's power in what we psychically know we need to do. And what we psychically know is going to be happening. And so no longer are the days where we can hide behind just what shit we're getting shaken in the third dimension, because that's hardly impressive now, because we can see what's also very clear is someone who is not attending to their divine feminine at all, right? who isn't psychically believing in the work that they're doing in the unseen behind the veil on their soul. When you're not aware of that work, you're often leading a life of much more exhaustion, dependency on things external to you, because you're not actually connected to your source. This Sagittarius season is like a blast from source. So if you're connected to it, you're really going to get this new pulse for life. But it would have come through really physically. We need to be taking more action towards our divine feminine principles, right? Which is release, flow, creativity, void space, darkness, negative, absence of light, like these types of things where creation is birthed from. Being familiar with how do we bring something into form, like that's something I've had to be very clear on. I was like, Alexis, at the end of the day, you've been talking about, these goals you have for yourself, about what you would like to be doing and how you would like your life's work to evolve. And a lot of it comes from over time, like these investments you make that when you don't just allow it to be something for something else, when it's aligned to your spirit, when you've done that integration work, if you know your divine feminine, put your hands in the fucking air, because it's like, if then these things don't feel like a question. They don't feel like they're the wrong thing. They feel like there's a level of preparedness that you just needed to have. Which I feel like we're watching come to pass at this time. So that's the action. The divine can only help you if you believe in what your divine feminine. Do you listen to her? When she tells you, like, do this, make that, be here. There may not be physical evidence of it, sure, but do you listen to her? The third card in the pyramid is the card of challenge. What was the obstacle or challenge you have chosen to experience before understanding is reached? Do you see what I'm saying? And this is kind of the reflection I've been having on this sort of year in total and in sum, because it seems like the perfect time to do this type of reflection, right as you really are about to really achieve what it is. But that's what I've really been reflecting on, that there are balances and both are valid. Both what I feel intuitively and what I can see physically there's no more importance, but there is an importance that we are putting an emphasis, because the divine feminine is not there. She is not playing. We're not utilizing it to the fullest capacity. We're not trusting to the full capacity. And so and we've talked about emotionally, we healed the wound of trust by creating a system of accountability. Now that we've created a paradigm that from the bottom up says, everybody has to be accountable for finding out what peace feels like for them and returning to that in every moment and using that as their guide for how they should move and what direction they should go in. Now that we've got that pillar in the pyramid ready, now that there's accountability, that people are going to move towards inner trust, I can trust my intuition, because a lot of times we just gaslight our intuition because we don't trust that the people around us are going to affirm what we feel. Like if someone's bad for you, but their behavior isn't making sense, or you can't really tell because they're not revealing that yet, so you don't have trust, but they're not living in peace, because it's easy for people to not live in peace and perform from their ego space. It's easy to do that. And therefore, our divine feminine was taking the blow all the time, because there was no peace in the home. And the mother who has to be responsible for what happens when there isn't peace in the home sector, you know what I mean? She takes the brunt of that. People stop believing in what her advice and her validity, you know what I mean? You ever heard of like a mother who couldn't control her kids, and what people think about that? Who couldn't, and when I say control, just like get their kids into a functional, like her kids seemed very disturbed. What happens when people start saying that other people are bad mothers? Like, how do we damage our divine feminine? How are we uncomfortable, with what she has to say? What if that's the truth for you? I think right now, too, for me, because I'm really coming from, I'm not really, I'm talking about, I'm coming from a very, very crazy year financially, because I think I'll never really be in this place again. Specifically, because it was a very specific mission to kind of explore this, level of well-being that really is not dependent on any consistency of finance, which I think is such a special gift to get at this time, because everything from this point forward feels like completely abundant, you know? Because my sense of self and my sense of ability to allow myself to live and to feel good and to feel like I'm still worthy of things, whether things are in flow, whether I have the money or don't, whether I'm early or late on a bill. Like, the best way to get from point A to point B is to not make yourself feel like shit, which is how we treat the feminine energy within our world and in our planet when we lived in such a patriarchal society that undervalued the role of the divine feminine. But I would also say that the patriarchy was less about undervaluing the role of the divine feminine, but it was more of the exploration of masculine energy, trying to get to know the divine feminine. So we lived in this era where there was this predominant focus on masculinity, because sometimes the best way to understand someone else's plight in life is to walk in their shoes. So the divine masculine within the patriarchy is not even so much of like, fuck the feminine energy, but it's really more of, I'm going to do both. I'm going to do both the masculine and the feminine principles and learn through the fact that I am not learning the polarities through clear definition of what we are and what we aren't, and developing a sense of oneness and unity, because there's a reliance on the function, because we have different roles. And seeing everything as an aspect of self. So really, you know, from a source vibe, patriarchy is just a evolutionary tool, you know, because it's the way that the divine masculine, how could the divine masculine know how much work the divine feminine is doing if they didn't uphold or try to do the job and see how well they did that went for them? And regardless of how well it went for them, it's more about just auditing like how much is being done. Like, patriarchy allowed for the divine masculine to have awareness as to like how much divine feminine principles really do. What is the role? Because sometimes there's ignorance. I mean, we know self, but maybe we don't know others, or we think we don't know others. And so we saw, now that we're seeing sort of this rebalancing and this demolition, because you know, feminine principles are the sort of psychic, right? They that's the awareness of what's going on the other side of the veil. That's the higher awareness of like what others think and feel. And so divine masculine is really more situated in a primal space that moves through the pulse of self, and so always needing to travel through self first, without maybe more so being able to objectively or psychically pick up on things. Like, that's where that real exploration of like patriarchal society and structures really came into. So the third card in the pyramid we talked about is the card of challenge. This card points towards the unseen influences at work and asks you to consider and understand them so that you can meet them with clarity of mind and purpose. Did I not just talk about the patriarchy as a random download? And how this third card is a card of challenge, and the challenge for divine masculine energy was to look at the unseen influences from the divine feminine at work and ask yourself to consider and understand them, right? Patriarchal energy, right? Men kind of playing all the role, playing all the roles, doing all the things, and then also making rhetoric that doesn't make that sustainable, because we also still have to uphold like masculinity, you know what I mean? While we're not allowing, because I think patriarchy was only painful or resistant when we weren't allowing the exploration of understanding, like, so you're trying to do the role of it, tapping into your divine feminine without acknowledging the divine feminine. And that's really essentially what was going on with the violence of that energy at times. But we seek to understand them so we can meet them. We can meet in unity and balance, which is here now, with clarity of mind and purpose. So the challenge, and boom, this is the child within. We literally have the inner child. Do you see what I'm saying? Because we just talked about the role of mothers. We just talked about patriarchy and masculine and feminine energy and what we were really experiencing at an energetic level. Now we're talking about the child within being the major challenge here. which the child is the creation of both our masculine and our feminine principles, but funneled through the feminine, created by the feminine, but contributed to by both masculine and feminine. Energies within us, which make up our inner child. So there are contributions within us that make up who we truly are at the thought, because the inner child is synonymous with truth, the highest form of authenticity. And it's funny because my in-laws gave me, I had requested, since they're visiting, that they bring me like a box of photos so I could get some copies so that my fiance can have photos of himself, like in his possession, because, you know, we're adults now, and I feel like I really would just love to have those treasures, and I've been really trying to archive more physical photos. Anywho, so we're talking about this inner child, but when we overcame the challenge of working with that sort of inner child, the child within, because I just talked about challenging children, right? And we talked about how much judgment we leave or we reserve when the children are challenging. So when our inner child was difficult for us to manage or to help, or for some of us, you know, when you started your ascension journey, you realized your inner child was literally screaming, you know, like literally so disturbed. And, you know, there can be a lot of judgment that we reserve for ourselves because of the condition that our inner child we may have found it in. And then we begin to harshly judge the divine feminine and the masculine within all of us, and that equal balance of however those components meet. And both the contributions of our masculine and the conception of our divine feminine. And it can be sort of this damning space, right? But it says every situation has a light and a dark aspect, an aspect of illumination and one of mystery. This card points to the unseen influences at work and asks you to consider and understand them so that you can meet them with clarity of mind and purpose. This is also about, like, there is this radical, like, inner child that is, like, surfacing. Like, now this is, like, a morphing. Like, your inner child is no longer, it's embedded in your heart space. So it's not within you, neglected in the dark, but it's, like, burning in the heart, you know? And now that you carry your inner child in your heart, I feel like your heart pumps the blood to every other feature. So now you see the sort of inner child within you. And I feel like that's kind of the energy that I was giving with this reading today, was a very, like, you can really see what I was as a child. It's beautiful to see my partner as a child because I see so much of that energy alive and healthy and freely expressed. And that was the challenge, right? To not judge our masculine and feminine components so much that we, for the state of the child and just getting to holding the child within the heart and healing in that space and opening up and allowing it to be expressed. So the fourth card is the spirit card, of course. This card brings a message from your spiritual self, giving guidance and providing support. This card will give you a clearer idea of the spiritual lesson that may be involved in the current situation. The ally that appears here is a messenger from the wind element. You see what I mean? This is crowning our reading, and it's a messenger from our overall energy, which was the wind element, which is the new element that you evolved for. So this is the message that I have a feeling it's going to have to do with, like, okay, thank you, congratulations. I'm channeling right now. I'm hearing the messenger say from the wind, which is the climate that was coming that we were getting ready for. So you're ready, and the wind meets you, and it says, congratulations, I'm so proud of you. You've made it. You've evolved to be able to survive and thrive as your highest self, because your highest self has a different climate, and this is the climate of your highest self, and you committed to the path of your highest self. You now live out that prophecy, starting now. And because of that, you're going to be able to look around and see, like, what you've created for yourself and what you have. And the celebration really, truly begins. But the biggest and most important and prominent aspect of that is that now that you can sustain and thrive in this new environment, and you will see that the new climate, the new wind that surrounds you, the new elements that surround your life and your world, they are more conducive to a natural living and breathing experience. This card will give you a clear idea of the spiritual lesson that may be involved in the current situation. The ally that appears here is a messenger from the wind element. Listen carefully to its direction and open your mind to the answers that are being given to your questions. So just taking a moment to really acknowledge the questions that we have right now. Like, are we going to be okay? Like, are we going to make it? Like, is it coming through? Is that what this is all about? And the answer is yes. This is the wind saying it's here. The reason you were buying and getting and creating and preparing so intensely is that it's coming in now. This Sagittarian new moon, I believe on the 23rd is going to be, which is tomorrow, is going to be the day. And here is the energy. Oh my God. Literally labradorite. Literally labradorite. You are poking through the hole and expanding into the labyrinth. Magic. The answer to your questions is magic is coming. It's so special today. Like, it feels like the last day before everything changes, and I just feel like that's why I'm giving this really special message. I know that we really need these messages at this time, and it's interesting because a lot of people have been making commentary about how they don't feel called right now, or God is specifically instructing them, like, this isn't your time to share. But I think a lot of my principles and a lot of the time that I took to not share at certain points, or to talk about sustainability, or to know what this is about, really stem from needing to trust in the magic. This is spirit. This is a message from your spiritual self. That magic. You have created a complete surprise world of pure magic, and I'm so excited to experience this. So the last card is the self card. This is what you look like. You've got inner peace, female power, the child within, magic. All of these corners of your pyramid are now showing a picture of what you look like right now. Can you believe that? We see your inner child. We see you taking action towards what it is that your divine feminine is literally psychically telling you. The magic is there. She's like, okay, bro, there's something magic that's about to happen. Otherwise, if we didn't believe this, tomorrow would be another fucking day. You know, time would just continue to keep going. Things would just continue to keep going. But the divine feminine is literally straight across from the magic, being like, there's something that's about to happen. You're about to bloop, pop through the hole. So as long as you can keep your emotions at inner peace, as long as you are listening and taking action on what the divine feminine, female power is giving you, as long as you overcome the challenges that you faced as a child that have continued to reverberate, spirit has the answer. Magic, that is the combination of magic that is taking place. This is the direction. Go through the hole. Allison. Wonderland. Open your mind to the answers that are being given to your literal questions. So the self card at the apex in the center is the creator. Do you see what I'm saying? We talked about this whole message about being sort of this creator energy. It says, and that creator is you. Remember that you create your reality into anything you wish. So Spirit is about to reveal that tomorrow, under this new moon, Spirit, which is the 23rd of November, 2022, Spirit is about to show you. It's like, okay, your magic show starts tomorrow. And you're going to see, you've been seeing all the components, you've been doing and handling all these moving parts, emotionally staying at peace, physically acting on all the psychic things that because your divine feminine psychically knows how the show's going to go. The show is tomorrow. So the divine feminine knows how the show's going to go. She's telling you, get this, get this, get this, get this, get this, get this, so that you're ready. Get your divine kid up and ready. Get that, like, that's what's showing through. Be prepared, because go towards the magic. That's the direction that Spirit wants you to go through. It says, if you remain centered and open to spirit, remember that you can create anything in your reality that you wish. Remember that you can create your reality into anything that you wish. Remember that you can create your reality into anything that you wish. Remember we were saying that months ago? And now this Neptune, Pisces, Jupiter conjunction energy is about to bring you your wish. And it's whatever you wished. If you remain centered and open to spirit, which is what we just went through with this beautiful message. The self card indicates what quality or lesson is the driving force behind the creation of the situation. So this is the quality or lesson in you that is the driving force for what you're about to create tomorrow. This is beautiful. This would be the base emotion or vibration for your entire experience. The card that I'm about to flip is about to show you exactly what the vibration of what you're about to experience tomorrow. I mean, I'm seeing the biggest, I just bought a treasure chest. I just showed you my treasure chest. That treasure chest is it's about to be filled with spiritual gold. It comes down tomorrow. Do you believe me? Do you believe you? It says, in resonating fully with the energy of the ally I'm about to show you that appears here, you will consciously initiate the acceleration of the lesson to its perfect end. Meaning right now, I'm about to flip a card. We're about to come into alignment. You fucking hear what I'm saying. Tomorrow is the day. This is the biggest energy. This is the biggest moment. This is whenever you see this, it's literally because you're going to be aligned to seeing this video right before it happens for you. It just so happens that it's happening here for me, and it may be happening for you on the same, but it's happening right here. You are going to resonate fully with the energy of the center card that I have not flipped yet, because it is the base emotion and vibration for the entire experience about what's going to happen tomorrow. Sag season. Fire. You are about to be on fire. You will consciously initiate the acceleration of this. You are about to blaze into a fire. Right into the manifestation of this magic. We're going to read the fire element card. Literally, just a second. But this is huge. Fire. And this is what we'll close on. The element of fire is an intensely powerful ally to call upon when total and extreme cleansing and change are called for. Did you not hear me say tomorrow? You are going to the realm, remember we talked about the magic, whatever the you wished for? You're about to go to the world you created. Remember, we had to understand what our creation was, what it was going to be before we birth it. That's the whole birthing process. The 9 months of cooking a child in the womb is so that nurturer can understand what is about to blaze ahead for the rest of their life. Fire dwells within the heart of the earth, and its mighty force is displayed in its ability to turn solid rock into molten lava. This is what I'm talking about when we talked about some of these people, these energies that we're around right now, where we swear their energy that we used to experience with certain people was like solid rock. Like, this is where God says, you were never meant to move the damn boulder. I'm going to just turn it into molten lava. Like, that's the spirit of this fire that is about to blaze and create this new world for you. Its powers of destruction feed the cycle of rebirth and life as exampled in the legends of the phoenix and the dragon. Do you understand? This is the Taurus Scorpio axis. As the things get burnt up in the fire, it's fueling the new paradigm, the new energy of what's being birthed. The legend of the phoenix tells of a great bird of incredible beauty that was said to live 500 years. At the end of its life, the phoenix would burst into flames and be consumed. From its own ashes, the spirit of the phoenix would fashion a new body and be reborn into another life cycle with the beauty and purity of youth restored. I know you guys feel that exactly. The 500-year cycle of your soul is now complete. You burned it to the ashes. You felt that in this Scorpio season, that it left the ashes of it. Tomorrow marks the flow and the circulation. Those ashes are now making a completely new form, which you evolved all these aspects within this pyramid so that you could be ready when the wind blows to blow those ashes into form. You're ready for the new form, and you're ready to exist in the new element that you breathe. Like, you're not, it's like if you used to breathe air, now you breathe water. Like, that's the energetic difference here that this new form is about to take you into, because it's like you need different resources to survive because you have a new form. It says, the legend speaks of fire's power of transformation. Transformation is the changing of form, appearance, or structure. What are we doing right now, right? In the legend of the phoenix, the power of fire changes the form of the old bird into ashes and then to the form of a young bird once again. Through the cleansing and purifying force of fire, the ancient phoenix is restored to its youthful purity and beauty. In the legend of the dragon, however, the force of fire reveals its power of transmutation. The dragon is a mighty lizard with its powers of transmutation. The dragon is a mighty lizard with the wings of a bird and breath of fire. This creature could also live hundreds of years, and like the phoenix, was an animal of strange and incredible beauty. Unlike the phoenix, however, the dragon was a creature of destruction, prowling the countryside and stealing stray animals for its meals. The destruction that the dragon caused to the flocks and countryside could not go unpunished. Eventually, a brave, though usually destitute peasant boy would take it upon himself to face the dragon in a heroic quest. Braving the fire and horror of the dragon's breath, the hero would slay the dragon, and its carcass would be consumed by its own inner flames. Instead of turning to mere ashes, however, the cleansing power of the fire would transmute the dragon's flesh and bones to treasures of gold and precious jewels. Did I not just say I bought a treasure chest? And I told you about last night I felt when I was looking at these baby photos of Dennis, like energetically I was holding precious jewels. Like that was the physical transmutation of that coming into form. The peasant boy would return from this quest a hero and knight, and a very wealthy one at that. Do you hear what's about to happen? You're about to return from this quest, not only a hero and a knight, but a very wealthy one at that tomorrow. In this legend, the cardinal force of fire transmutes the evil dragon into something else entirely. In this case, golden jewels, which represents the rewards given to a brave heart that has survived the cleansing energies of fire. The legend reflects the ability of fire to consume one form that energy is taken and convert it to an entirely different form. This is the power that the ancient alchemists sought in attempting to change lead to gold. The powers of transmutation and transformation make fire a vital force to invoke for those who are in need of a drastic and profound change in situation. Do you see what I mean? Like, I'm also like, at the end of this month, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to call on this fire to really bring in a completely drastic and profound change in my current situation. This change is not easily bought, however, and no one can expect to learn significant lessons about oneself when one employs this element to create change in one's life. The saying, trial by fire, which I was literally about to just say because I was talking about, I have a installation that I made in 2020, or that I had designed, but has never been installed, called Trial by Fire, which pretty much prophesied this experience. But it's not just a phrase, but it is an aspect of the spiritual quest that is considered crucial to the acquirement of mastery of the physical plane and the process of manifestation. What is a manifestation? The birth of the child. This is the birth of your new creation. You've created a new world. Tomorrow is the day that you live in it. The elemental force of fire is embodied by us in our second and third chakras, located 2 inches below and 2 inches above the navel. These centers are the seat of our creative force, sexual energy, and will. These chakras are often overlooked or misunderstood in our culture as being centers of base energies that are not spiritual. In fact, these energy centers contain powerful forces that are integral parts of our personal power. Your sacral, or your second and third chakra, sacral and solar plexus, are integral power sources. Our own will to create and procreate is an echo within us of the creative force of the universe. Do you see how that's mirrored? Each of our creations can be an offering of thanks to the universe that bore us, and a representation of the light that we strive to bring to this physical realm. Through invoking and facing the creative force of the fire within, we can purify our energy, transform our bodies and minds, and transmute our creations into higher and more beautiful expressions of light. The polarity of the creative force is destruction, which is also an important aspect of the energy of fire. So also, I want to just point out, don't be uncomfortable with some of the destruction, tower moment, Mars energy that you might see, because it's a potent energy in part of the transmutation process for fire. Utilizing fire's power of destruction, we can discreate those aspects of our lives which no longer serve us. And from the ashes, we can form new and more joyful creations. Here's the message that we'll close on. The element of fire has appeared as a signal for you to prepare for transformation. You are being initiated in a trial by fire that will create drastic change in your experience of the physical world. Literally, you just came through the fire. Get ready for the complete change of the physical world. Before the creation of the new can begin, which I just said, however, the destruction of the old must take place. Fire is directing you to seek deep within to find the outmoded aspects of your life and then offer them up to the dragon within to be transmuted into new and more beautiful creations. Old habits, old possessions, beliefs, and creations that no longer serve you are to be swept away in the flames of your own creative force. From the ashes of these outmoded creations, new and more powerful creations will emerge. By offering those things that are no longer needed to the flame of creation, you are making room in your life for the gifts that the universe is offering you. This is what I mean. We talked about, as I tell you, today being that last day right before tomorrow's energy, like, be prepared for people to just snap out of it, to really just realize and drop, because we started this message talking about the things that, like, as we realign to the truth vibration, things that are in opposition to said truth ring really loud, like it's just, that indicates like it's a lesson you don't have to hold. So that's part of what we're also realizing. We talked about money moving, energy, because money is just energy. Energy needs to continue to move. So you've got to keep making room in your life for the gifts that the universe has to offer you. And I think that there's about to be massive gifts, dividends, treasure given out for the room that you've shoveled out because you let things continue to move. This transformation and transmutation of spirit will be intense, which it has been. It is through fire that we become purified and renewed. Attempting to hold on to those things in your life that no longer serve you, get ready to hear there are going to be changes. It's time to let them go. You will only create difficulty, right? And that's what I saw, like, last night. I feel like I was witnessing, like, in real time, I was with an energy and a person who I think was, like, having some really, like, weird tower moments happen. And, like, it was kind of interesting to just witness how they were creating that, Because it was the sort of thing that was out of your control, out of your hands. but also very Tower-esque, meaning like there's not really anything else we can really do about what was happening other than what's being addressed. So it kind of just exposed like the truth, you know, about what it was, because if something goes away or disappears or is let go of or is removed, it wasn't meant to stay. It's not authentic. It's not a part of the actual form. And so, you know, experiencing that and seeing that in expressions outside of me was like really helpful for me to really recognize and let you all know that it's like, if you try to hold on to some of these things, some of these like non-truths, you will only create more difficulty for yourself. Release them readily, because this is what we talked about, volunteering versus waiting for the tower, which will either is going to come, but we can either be ready and awaiting, or we can be, you know, dragged by its serendipity. And you will find them replaced with gold and jewels. Do you hear what I'm saying? Everything that I let go of, ending with today, is about to be replaced with gold and jewels. I just bought a treasure chest. You know what I mean? And of spiritual growth and abundant physical creations. Everything that I let go of has now been replaced with gold and jewels of spiritual growth, which I have, as well as physical creations. So don't get it twisted. There are physical creations coming in. One way to aid in this release is through a candle ritual, which I feel like I should show you. Anyway, no, I won't. But yes, I will. I'll be right back. So this is some candle magic here, because this candle like cracked, but it like melted all around outside, and it's a green candle, and that's kind of the destruction, right? That cracked, but there was this new form, you know, that was created with this candle that I feel like only came from sort of the intensity of, you know, the cracks of this glass. You see what I mean? And so one way to aid is through a candle ritual. Carve symbols for those things that you want to release or transmute into the sides of a candle. Light the flame and meditate upon releasing these things to the flame of the fire that will transmute them. Allow the candle to burn until all the symbols have been melted and transmuted into heat and light. Focus upon releasing them to the universe, where the creative force will utilize the energy to create new and better forms for you. So also psychically, the last thing I'll close on is there are some things that psychically your divine feminine told you, like maybe it's in relationships that you see in your life, like with family members that they may have, or this or that. And it's funny because last night I actually saw, had taken my siblings out we had gone out to eat, and we went to a bar afterwards, and I saw this person who is one of my childhood best friend's partners. And this partner is someone that really, you can tell is very much, my divine feminine was kind of like, you know, my high priestess was like, you know, this partner is someone that this friend of mine is going to have to let go of. It's going to have to go in the fire. And it's interesting that I saw him on this sort of last little day, this last passage before this sort of Sag season new moon energy came in, to sort of symbolically show the destruction of what was, because I feel like starting right now, those things that don't resonate, the things that were supposed to go that maybe you didn't volunteer to let go of, are going. And as they're going, ushered in will be the new and perfect form, your awareness of the new, because you're already in a new form, but I think it's just like these things that whatever hasn't been let go of that has held up, because some of it may be external to you, like some of you may, like myself, I feel like very embodied in where I am and what's going on, but the form or some of the things that are still held up that don't completely project the vision that my high priestess is showing me was going to be the outcome, those things are changing now. So the biggest, deepest congratulations to you. This has been such a special message to deliver and channel. And I'm so excited that I will share this one and have that available as a resource. But congratulations. This Sagittarius season is shown up you are in complete alignment with the ecosystem and the energies at play to show up as your self card, as the fire element, when the oldest fire sign energy has like made its presence known. Like, we are very aligned and we are very prepared. But congratulations, this is going to be sweeping change. This is going to be a lot of wow, that prediction, that thing that I knew, that day that I was waiting for, that event that I felt like was going to finally be the straw that kind of broke the camel's back to like get us back to truth. The things, the people that no longer are supposed to just be around, like they're going, you know what I mean? And so this is really special, and this is really going to be something very worthwhile. And I'm so grateful that I took the time to really think about the symbols that I was experiencing, because I'm like living life right now. I haven't been like doing many pre-recorded videos because I've been living life, but there are so many special, like massive synchronicities that I allow to come through because I have a very open channel, sort of umbilical cord to my divine feminine energy. So I allow a lot of the things that spirit wants me to receive to come in, and I just have a lot of perspective now. So I'm so grateful for this hour and 40-minute chat. I know that it'll be such good, yummy food for thought for later when I am watching this back. But I'm so, so grateful to every single soul that I have encountered that has really allowed me to embrace this teaching and this understanding. And I just hope that this was another special experience. So happy 11/22, happy day to you, and congratulations on all of the downloads that we just unpacked. It's been so fun. Bye-bye.